Dr. McLemo just tosses out non-stop food metaphors. Captain Freeman still holds the Hydroscoot speed record back at the Academy. And deep down, Rutherford just wants to replace a Terranium ops module with ionizing subcircuits. Hey, everybody, and welcome to the 7th Rule with Cirroc Lofton.
How was that, Ryan? That was a little bit of a tongue twister right there. Huh?
Yeah, but I survived it. Today, we've got a very special guest, our associate producer, Mr. TJ Jackson-Bey, out in Missouri.
Hello, hello.
My name is Ryan T. Husk,
TJ.
and today we are reviewing Lower Decks, Episode 9, called Crisis Point. It's called Crisis Point? Felt like a different word, but I guess it was called Crisis Point, right, TJ?
That's it.
Yeah.
Crisis Point.
What a relief. So this was Episode 9, second to last one, but it seems like a pretty fun and exciting one. Cirroc is wearing his Lakers hat. I'm wearing also Lakers purple, purely by accident, I assure you. And TJ is waiting for us to talk about Star Trek, so let's do it. All right.
Saying the heat is on.
Yeah.
The heat is on.
In Miami.
Miami Heat, that's better.
No, I think the Lakers are going to take it.
Yeah, looks like it.
We'll
LeBron
see.
is a grown man.
Yeah, but Andre is the LeBron stopper, you know.
He is, and not yet, not so far.
Not so far. not in game one.
Yeah.
Anyway, now that we've lost all of our viewers, we've got some lizard men to talk about.
No, they called it Crisis Point, I thought, because of the name of the movie that Mariner programmed into the holodeck, right? Wasn't the name of the movie like Crisis Point, something Vindicta or something? Vindicta?
The Rise of Vindicta, yes.
The Rise of Vindicta, yeah. So that's where they got the Crisis Point name from, I'm pretty sure. I thought it was a pretty clever idea, though. A movie inside of a TV show, you know, that's animated, which is kind of like, I don't know, that's pretty amazing, actually. What do you guys think about that concept?
I mean, I liked it a lot, honestly. I thought it was really fun. It was cool. Like our buddy Mike McMahon mentioned before, he kind of made like a movie in an episode similar to what he did in the Hulu series called Solar Opposites, which he just did earlier in the year. And I believe that was episode 7 on Solar Opposites, 7 or 8. And this one was episode 9. And in Solar Opposites, it was a really good episode. There were so many people that said it was the best half hour of animated show that they've ever seen. A lot of people were saying that.
Wow.
I don't know if it's the best I've ever seen, but I can see why they said that. I mean, on IMDb, it got like mid-9s averaged out. Really, really, really good episode. And so this was similar to that, you know, at least in theory, where it was just like a mini movie within an episode. TJ, were you on the edge of your seat, or were you relaxed and just enjoying it?
No, I thought it was interesting because of all the things that Mariner was doing. There was just a really lot of story packed into that few minutes of a holodeck movie. I thought it was really interesting. Yeah, I was on the edge of my seat trying to see what the end game was of what she was planning, what she had written in like 30 seconds, punching buttons on the holodeck.
Yeah.
So there are a few homages to previous Star Trek movies. One that I didn't catch was somebody said there was the Wrath of Khan music playing at some point. Also, the one I did catch, which was just hilarious, was when you're on the bridge of the ship, they just had unbelievable amounts of lens flare just lens flare everywhere, all over. And it's almost as if they just called JJ and they're like, hey, can you direct this one scene for us real quick? That was an obvious nudge to a very forceful nudge to JJ Abrams. Another one was, and I believe Mohamed, our buddy Dr. Mohamed Noor, was talking to us about this one, was that really slow, drawn out shots of the ship. You know, that was like in, he said it was in Star Trek 1 and 2, but we definitely recognize it as something that's done all the time in Star Trek movies, which is like, here's the ship, and then here's the ship from this angle, and then here's the ship from above, and then all this, and they're coming up to it in the shuttlecraft in awe and wonder. Did you catch those, TJ?
Absolutely. I think
thought so.
Yeah, the motion picture fly around of the ship lasted like 5 minutes with this epic music booming.
Yeah.
I mean, it's the first time you see the ship on the big screen for Star Trek 1. So yeah, that was a good nod, a good nudge to that. There's a lot of movie references in this holodeck deal, like warping straight out of the space dock, pretty much. Was one of them. What was
that in reference to? I missed that one.
Well, pretty much, again, in any of the movies, they come out of the space dock and they're like, all right, let's see what this ship can do. There were references to fighting on rickety bridges from Generation.
Mm-hmm. Right.
They crashed the ship like they did in Generations. I also thought that was kind of a nod to Star Trek Beyond, too, with the saucer crashing, because it wasn't just a smooth crash and into the snow, into the ice. They even had the casket that crash landed on the planet with Vindicta Mariner in it, but she didn't last long.
But definitely the saucer section crashing on the planet, that was a great one. We've seen that one before. Yeah. Deanna Troi will attest.
Don't let her fly the ship. She always crashes.
I know. So here's the thing, though. Cirroc, you don't know most of these Star Trek movie references. So us nerds, we watch this, we're like, whoa, that's just like, whoa, that's just like, whoa, that's... Whereas you can just sit back and watch and enjoy it for what it is, the actual story. What do you think of it? I mean, what do you think of it as just something minus the references?
Yeah, so like I wrote down, I love the ship graphics. So when they were actually doing that whole montage, I really liked the animation of how they have the ships. So getting the close-ups was good for me. So I was looking at a handsome lady just like they were looking at one.
Yeah, so it was good for you too.
It was good for me too. It's like, hey, you want to join me at the Warp Core to watch the Warp Core? So yeah, it was special for me to actually have that little montage. I enjoyed it. I knew it was some kind of reference to the way that they do the movies, because obviously they're doing the big movie homage in this particular episode. So I knew that they were kind of piggybacking or making a play on the old movie scenes. But I really liked the ship graphics. I liked the music actually that was being played during that montage.
Totally.
I was like, this is great Star Trek music. This is well produced. It sounds authentic too. So I was all into it. I thought it was great.
We did mention before, maybe in the very first episode, how it feels like there are different animations groups animating the exterior ship stuff and animating the interior ship stuff. It just seems like two different departments. And the exterior guys are really nailing it, because it's true, the ship looks beautiful, and the shots of the ship look beautiful. TJ, are you a ship nerd?
I would say I am.
That pause sounded like a no.
No, I was trying to think of where to go with it. I remember playing Star Trek Online, and there were a bunch of ships on there. You could go back and fly in the old ships. I've always liked looking at the different alien ships that they produce as well, especially Romulan ships. So I was pretty stoked last week watching the Bird of Prey fly around.
Yeah.
I like the Cerritos as well. Yeah, they're a beautiful thing to watch. Unfortunately, I also like to watch space battles, so I like to watch them blow up.
You know, there was another ship, another California city mentioned as a ship, and I wrote it down, and I can't remember what it was. Did you guys catch it?
San
No,
something. It wasn't San Bernardino, but it was a San.
Yeah. Damn.
San Luis Obispo?
No. They did mention
was
another ship, and I was like, oh, there's another one.
Turns out that one didn't exist, though.
Right, but it still had. Oh well, I'll find it later. So here, where the fuck is it? So also, I wanted to point out very quickly, and I don't know if you guys know the answer to this, but the very beginning with the rat people and the lizard people, my first thought when I saw the rat people was they looked like Antikins. What were they Antikins? Now, Cirroc, if you'll remember, Tracy Coco, our buddy Tracy Coco, was an Antikin. It's kind of got the long brown head and the white hair and the snout. And they might have only been in 1 or 2 episodes. TJ, was that an Antikin?
I'm thinking no. I kind of had the same thought visually, but I remember the Antikins, and I think they were dogs and not rats. So
right.
I mean, I didn't go back and look at them again, but that's the reference I remember. They do look alike, though.
I was hoping it was an Antikin. Also,
no, but I like the comedy that they actually got out of that scene, which is, you know, you're violating the Prime Directive. You can't do that. And she's like, well, they're eating these people. Like, you know, let's do something about it. And I really like the joke where at the end, Freeman tells him, hey, do you mind if we give you some replicators? Would you stop eating them? And their answer was like, only if it could make nutrient pellets or something like that, right?
That's what it was. Yeah. And he's like, well, can it make nutrient pellets? And she's like, yes, of course.
Like a simple thing, like, can it make dog food? Like, yeah. So I like that whole little exchange. It was a nice comedy.
Now, thank goodness, but I found the ship name, the San Clemente, which is south of LA, kind of near San Diego, if I remember correctly. San Clemente.
Where was that mentioned?
When they were talking about Idlacana 6, and they said it was the second contact because the first contact was done by the San Clemente or something like that. Okay.
The ship that didn't exist, right? So
right.
Somebody.
Right. Okay. And then another NAM happens when Boimler says, if this was actually happening, they'd send the Enterprise.
I caught that.
Oh, yeah.
They mentioned the Enterprise quite a bit. The Enterprise and Picard and Kirk and Spock are the ones that get the most mentions so far, I believe. Wow.
Yeah, I think it's interesting that they all serve on these ships that are kind of like not the biggest, brightest in the fleet, but they all are like talking about the news of what's going on the Enterprise and what's going on with all of these famous officers on this famous ship. Always thought that was interesting throughout watching this series with the lower decks folks.
Yeah, so they've mentioned Q twice, not including his appearance. They've mentioned Captain Picard twice. I thought it was 3 times, but I've only got 2 times in my notes. They've mentioned Spock twice. Again, feels like more. And Kirk 3 times. They've mentioned the Enterprise 5 times. So that's 5 times in 9 episodes. So, boy, this final episode's really going to show who's going to get second place. Boy, this is an exciting battle. I do want to point out very quickly, and this is something TJ might know. He's a very knowledgeable Star Trek fan, this TJ. Jackson-Bey out in Missouri. But they mentioned a character by the name of Zahn. She called, Mariner called Boimler a Zahn. She's like, you're totally a Zahn, dude. Like a guy that doesn't even really exist, or a guy that was created but nobody remembers him, right? So I immediately assumed this was a character that maybe was put in an episode or in a scene or something like that, but then cut out, because that's how they were referencing it. I was not completely correct. TJ, do you know who Zahn is?
I actually do not, because and the only clue I have to that is I think in the group somebody mentioned it being a reference to, just like you said, somebody that was cut. So I'm very good with on-screen references, but not so much with off-screen references.
Right. But they made it clear in the episode that it was going to be a character in Star Trek lore that was cast, but that never made it on screen, and then nobody knew who it was because it never made it. So the answer came, of course we could have just Googled it, but we don't do that. We're Star Trek nerds. Came from, again, Mr. Don Crandall out in the Sacramento area, the USS Sacramento. And he said that Zahn was a character back in whatever it was, the 70s, when the original series of Star Trek was going to kind of start up again. And they were going to create a series called Star Trek Phase 2. Right? It was going to have Kirk and the Enterprise, and everybody was coming back. Now, Leonard Nimoy had not agreed to come back yet. So they had a backup science officer / Vulcan, same exact thing as Spock, named Zahn. And he was cast and he was ready to go. And that was going to be like the new Spock, unless Spock ended up saying, okay, I'll do it, which he hadn't. But then for whatever reasons that I don't know, but I'm sure some people do, they ended up scrapping the Phase 2 idea, and that second series never ended up happening. Eventually we got Next Generation. But anyway, so that's who Zahn is. Now, beyond that, what we didn't guess is, or I would have never guessed, was that Don Crandall tells us that the Zahn actor was given a consolation role instead in the Star Trek The Motion Picture. A tiny part at the beginning when the Starbase discovers V'ger. So there's a guy kind of looking over a lady's shoulder when they discover V'ger, going, oh, what is that thing or whatever. That's his, instead of being one of the leads in a Star Trek series, he had a couple lines in the motion picture. So wow. That's the story there.
And so Mariner was calling Boimler Zahn?
Yeah.
That's some deep writing right there.
Yes. Yes.
That's really deep. All right. Interesting. So Zahn wasn't the person playing darts against Chief O'Brien in the Shakar episode.
No.
That was my guess.
No. Right. We could talk about that episode too. I got my notes ready to go on that one.
just asking. Did anybody catch the Warp Me reference when she sat down in the Cerritos and they were taking off in that first the first go around? Like her way of saying engage or whatever. Hers was Warp Me.
No way.
Yeah. Warp Me real good.
Warp Me.
Yeah.
I did catch that. I thought it was funny.
Right. I thought it was funny. Too. Yeah, so Freeman, when she was trying to get the ship to go for the first time, she hit it with the Warp Me. I thought it was great.
That is good. Yeah. I like it.
I remember a few episodes back where I think she was talking to some random crewman walking through a corridor, asking her, what do you think, my thing should be to make the ship go? And she said it then, but that was the first time she actually said it on the bridge.
I think what she said was warp it back then, right? Because that's when Cirroc and I made all of our dumb jokes about warp it good.
Warp it good.
Yeah.
Or,
Right. Dun, dun, dun,
Yeah.
dun, dun,
we'll warp it real good.
Warp
But-
me.
Wow, that's fun.
Yeah, so today she hit it with the warp me on this episode. I thought it was pretty good.
I thought there were some interesting scenes with the counselor too. I don't think I've ever seen bird character on the show. We know we have Dr. Tahana, which is a cat.
You think they go at it, those two?
I would love to see them interact
during the medical meetings, the psychology, and
they're both blue shirts. They're both on the medical side of things. That was interesting. But this doctor, I think Miglilo is how they pronounced it, with all of the food references. And I noticed in his office, all of the decorations were like trees or some kind of greenery, which I thought was appropriate for a bird.
That's brilliant. I didn't catch that. That's funny.
That
was
you're
great.
right. You're right. He had the bonsai trees all over the place.
Yeah.
I like the guy that was cast to play Boimler in the movie. Shempo or whatever.
Yeah.
He was that guy was hilarious to me because it was like the way he was portrayed. He's like, I don't act like that. I enjoyed that little. I mean, the comedy's great, especially when you consider that they're bringing in references from Zahn and things that you'd really have to go deep to figure it out. They're really layering it in. I also saw another reference in the episode. I don't know if you guys caught this, but when Rutherford was having the exchange with the engineer that he had a crush on.
Yeah.
And they were trying to fix some Phillips.
Billups.
Yeah, they were trying Billups.
Like Chauncey.
Yeah.
That's what I think of every time I hear his name.
Me too. And that's okay. Chauncey deserves that recognition.
Yes, he's a Hall of Famer. When they were talking about the tech stuff, one of the lines was like, yeah, we'll have to get the indica controls and the sativas and the indica.
I didn't catch that. No way. That's hilarious.
Well, I caught that.
Yeah, I know. I know Curtis, man. By the way, that's a Cheech and Chong reference when he says, "Oh, you know Curtis, man," and then Cheech goes, "Yeah, I know Curtis, man." But anyway, that's Cheech and Chong. That's up in smoke. That's old school.
Nice. So they had a little their techno babble threw indica and sativa into it. I just like, oh, that's pretty interesting.
Wow, that's funny.
Yeah.
I do also want to throw out a bit of knowledge because, by the way, Mike McMahon is basically just showing off his Star Trek knowledge. When he has characters like Zahn in there, like he's really saying, hey, guys, don't question my nerd card, okay? But I do want to point out when you said that we've never seen a bird character before. If I remember correctly, I can think of two similar things. I believe there was a bird character in the animated series.
Okay.
And I could be wrong. I feel like it was like Kirk was on a planet and there were like 3 or 4 or 5 different alien races. And one of them was a bird character. It kind of looked like a pterodactyl bird or whatever. Anyway, so there's that one. There was also the Xindi.
Enterprise, yeah, I was thinking about them,
right,
the avians.
Exactly, you nailed it. The avians, the extinct race of Xindi, because in Enterprise...
Right. So we never actually saw them, but they were mentioned.
Yeah, I think we see like their skulls or something. And the third one I want to mention, this is a super deep cut, was that Dr. Phlox, John Billingsley, has mentioned many times before in interviews that when he saw the Denobulan character of Dr. Phlox, he pictured him to be kind of avian, kind of a bird or something. And he was cast in the role. And in the first episode, he delivers his line, and then he goes, "Rah!" like a bird, like, "Ah!" you know, like some kind of squawk. He gave it a screech or a squawk kind of thing. And he was just delivering because he's like, okay, well, I'm a bird character, so he does that. And then the director gave him some kind of line like, hey, can you, you know, quit fucking around? We gotta record this thing. And John's like, well, that was my first hint that maybe I guessed wrong, that maybe that was not, because he wasn't messing around. He seriously just thought that for the next 5 or 7 years or 4 years, he was just going to be delivering lines with screeches and squawks. But that
that's great.
Got nipped in the bud right away.
That's great.
Yeah, we're going to have to override that. Not a good interpretation. I don't think it would have lasted too long if people have to hear that all the time.
Okay, Kaba Lake. Anybody know what Kaba Lake is? The retreat where they were on their boats or whatever those were. The hydro.
Jet skis.
No, what is
hydro
is that a real lake or?
I don't know, but knowing these guys, they don't usually make stuff up. You know, they usually are referencing something somewhere. But no, nothing. I don't know.
The word Kaaba means something in Amharic. It's something that it's like a cape that we wear for weddings and special events. It's embroidered golden velvet, black velvet and gold embroidered cape called Kaaba. So that's all I know about a Kaaba.
Well, let's go with that then. That must be it. What they were.
That's what he was talking about. That's what Mike McMahon was on. All right, he's deep.
So they got the Kappa and the Indica for Cirroc. Those were all winks to you right there.
Oh man, Indica sativa. It was pretty amazing, you know. But apparently, Orion pirates have stopped pirating at least 5 years ago. So.
Hang on, I did want to say real quick, Indo.
Yeah.
Smells more like outdo. Anyway, yeah, they stopped pirating 5 years ago, at least 5 years ago.
I thought that was some interesting character development for Tenderoni, standing up to Mariner and just not really putting up with all of those pirate references. She got tired of it, and she's like, you know what, I'm out. I'm done with this. Because, you know, I'm just not going to let you keep putting me in that stereotype.
There was a lot of stereotyping
and a
there,
slave
right?
trader. Yeah. And I thought it was, you know, pretty big on Mariner's end to come back and apologize in the end and for them to all make up and go look at the warp core together.
You know, this may have been Mariner's best episode now that you mentioned that. This had the most, you know, depth and character development for Mariner, and also the most likability in a way of like seeing all the facets of her, you know, the strengths and the weaknesses and how she feels about her mother, how she feels about herself, how she feels about her crew. This was like opening a book in the form of a movie, in the form of a 23-minute animated episode into the psyche of Beckett Mariner. What do you guys think?
Yeah, I'd have to agree with that. Yeah.
I think there was a lot of revelation for Mariner. I thought the funny one, though, was that she actually does like the warp core and doesn't think it's lame like she always says. But, you know, the fight scene where they were talking to each other, where she's trying to taunt herself, and she tells herself, if you're really a badass, then why don't you suck it up and be a good officer? That's the hard thing. Do that instead of all of this clowning that you do. I thought it was interesting also at the very beginning of the episode, you know, she's freed these lizard people or shown them the light of freedom. And she's like, yeah, you know, mom's going to be proud when she comes this time. But no, she just seems to get knocked down again. But, you know, at the end of the episode, she realizes that she does that to herself. And I thought, yeah, that was probably some of the biggest Mariner revelation. We got a hint of it when her friend that became a captain came to substitute captain of the ship and called her out on her crap. But I thought this was a good follow-up to that as well, to let us, okay, why is she acting this way? Because we know that she does have ability and she chooses not to use it.
Good point. I do want to just hit one thing on the lizard people when you mentioned them. There was a line that I really liked when they said, when the rat people were like, we raised them as food. And the lizard guy was like, well, we are delicious. I don't know. Every once in a while they say little throwaway kind of lines that I think are worth mentioning, you know? Another reference we got was Mr. Leonardo da Vinci, straight from Italy by way of Voyager into Lower Decks.
Yeah, not today, not on the mile watch.
Yeah, he was featured in the holodeck on Voyager, so that was fun to see him again. For those of you Voyager fans.
You know, there was a little moment too when the ship crashed, and you know, the hull was rolling around in the snow, and then they cut to the inside of the ship, and the voice of the computer said, "Warning: the ship has crashed." It was just like the most redundant warning.
Yeah,
like,
thank you. Thank you for telling us.
Exactly.
I did catch that. You'd almost miss that if you weren't listening.
Right. That's what I mean. These little throwaway lines that are really good, that like, just because they kind of just throw it in the background or it's not really a big plot point, they're definitely worth listening for. One thing I did notice, and maybe I'm guessing wrong here, but Mariner calls Rutherford, you know, Mirror Universe or Holodeck Universe Rutherford. That's a good one, Holodeck Universe Rutherford. She calls him Bionic 5, okay? Now, when I heard that, I immediately thought that was a reference to an old children's cartoon that I really liked and that was really cool, but it didn't last very long. It was called Bionic 6. And it was just a family of 6 that all had like bionic implants or things about them. And unless somebody tells me that there's something that Bionic 5 references, I'm going to believe that that's what that was in reference to. Bionic 6. That's what the show is called. That's what the team was called. And I'm standing by it.
You're sticking by that?
Yeah, I liked them. They were cool. Bionic 6.
Yeah, I remember the Bionic 6. I remember the Bionic Man.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I'm old enough to remember those. But I didn't catch the Bionic 5 reference that you're talking about, so I didn't get to hear that part. But I did like Rutherford talking about, he's like, yeah, when you were knocked out, I beamed everybody off with an intermediate pulse and something. And Billups said, you can't do that. And he's like, yeah, you can. It's a movie. You can do whatever you want.
Yes.
And I like that line. And then after that, he does some ass kissing and he says, I learned it from you, sir. And Billups was like, okay. So I liked the comedy in this episode. I thought it was really good. Even the scene where Mariner is shooting at the other stud first officer guy. What's his name? You know, the guy who's
Jetson.
Yes. And she's shooting. He's like, you can talk the talk, but can you? And she shoots him. And he's like, she's walking and talking.
She's doing both. She can do both.
She's walking and talking. So I like that line as well. So there were a lot of little comedic lines that they were throwing in here. That was
right. So this is the Bionic 6 behind me. I guess I should have picked a picture that actually had the logo on it. I'm looking. There's another picture that has the logo on it, but whatever. This is the Bionic 6. That was their little team name.
I do remember those guys.
Yeah, I love these guys. I remember how the song goes, but I'm not going to sing it. It was, I liked it a lot, but it didn't last, I don't think. Oh, well. Everybody wanted to watch DuckTales back then. I'm like, DuckTales? Bionic 6? I knew that. I was always mad at DuckTales because it was on at the same time as Bionic 6. I'm like, what are you guys thinking, man? Obviously, Bionic 6 is better, but the test of time said that DuckTales was better.
No. Scrooge McDuck and Huey, Pewey, and Louie and Launchpad Quack. Come on. Can't beat that.
I thought there was a little bit of a comic moment also as the holodeck movie is starting and the credits come on. Also, I thought the title scene was a good nod to the Next Generation title scene with the kind of blue going back behind it.
Totally.
But the credits are rolling. they actually hit Boimler upside the head because he's not watching.
That was awesome. Yeah,
I thought that was a great little comedic moment.
Yes.
Yeah, that whole credit scene was great. Sorry, Cirroc.
Yeah. No, I was going to say, I liked the also part that I thought was cool about the credits was they gave everybody's first and last name. So there were some people's characters that I was like, oh, that's their name, huh? For example, I think it was Bradford Boimler. Bradward Boimler. And all these names, I mean, they were giving the full names. I didn't really, besides Beckett Mariner, I didn't really know everybody's full names.
There was one part in there, too, that was really clever was if you're watching all the names go by in the credits, there was one name we didn't recognize. I don't remember. It was something like Winger or something like that. And we're like, who the heck is that? But then 10 minutes later in the episode, when Mariner is shooting everybody, blasting everybody down, there's like these two people on the ship. And one lady says, what's going on, Winger? Or something like that. He's like, oh, whatever. And then the thing lands and kills him. Yeah. And you're like, hey, that's the Winger guy that they mentioned in the credits. So that was very clever, very cute. There was also a lady with a visor. Did you guys notice that? There was a Geordie.
Yes.
There was a Geordie visor that a lady was wearing. So that was also a fun thing. That's kind of two visor references we've seen. The other one being a teddy bear. So we only have a minute left before we got to put a pin in this one, seal the book, and say computer end program. Overall, what did you guys think of this one? I liked it a lot.
Yeah, I liked it a lot too. Yeah.
I enjoyed it. And before we go, it's kind of hard not to mention the kind of build up that was at the end where Boimler went back into the holodeck and found out the big secret.
Right.
Yeah.
Ooh.
That Beckett is Freeman's daughter. And then, of course, then he says that he thinks she's hot to her mom, which was just, and her mom says he did not prepare for this.
Yeah, he totally wigged out on that interview because he was in shock.
Which is the hilarious part because the whole program and the whole episode was designed to help him train for the interview that he ends up getting, that she says he's not prepared for this. So I thought that was kind of funny. Not to mention she's allergic to chocolate chip cookies, so don't
That's sad. That's just
poor
sad.
thing. I know.
Chocolate.
This episode's a tragedy now.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, and a lot of times when you see a holodeck episode or it was all a dream episode, those are usually kind of cop-outs a lot of times in TV shows. But in this case, I thought it was great. I thought it worked great. It's very entertaining and fun. I was 100% on board with it.
I agree. I agree. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I like the character development. I think we got more out of Tindy. I think we got more out of Rutherford. I felt like I connected with them both. Tindy kind of stepped up and became her own person and like stood up for herself and kind of showed some character and some, identity. And I thought Rutherford also with his comedy was starting to come out and really, affect me as well. I started to notice and pay attention to it. For example, when he looked over at Billups and he was like, look at him. He's a stone cold badass. And
he's sipping his soup.
Sipping his soup. So I just like those moments. I thought they did a fantastic job in this one. They kept me entertained from beginning to end.
Yeah. Billups, everybody knows he's sipping on gin and soup. So also, if
he's so laid back.
There we go. Thank you, TJ. See, Cirroc, he was with it. He liked it. He saved me, kind of. Well, man. Do you know what Tendi would be called if she were a video game born in 1956?
No.
Nintendo 64. Just because that would be 64 years from now. Never mind. Just I'm going to edit that one out. I'm going to end on
we can delete that.
It's too laid back.
Close to the end. We were so close.
Anyway, all right. Well, let's get out of here. This was a great one. I really enjoyed it a lot.
One other thing I want to say really quickly is that I did notice one of the things we talked with Mike McMahon about was the stylistic for the shots and trying to match the style of Star Trek. And I did pay attention and notice that now that he brought it up, there's a lot of consistency between the way they film the episodes and the way they actually try to film the cartoon.
That's a great point. Yeah, you're right. Absolutely.
Speaking of the end of things, since we're probably about to be rolling credits, one last reference in the holodeck, or actually at the end of the episode, was the credit signatures, which was a nice nod to the end of Star Trek VI when that crew signed off for the last time.
Oh, good point.
The signed credits.
Mm.
That was a great one. Drop the mic, TJ. Yeah. Drop the mic.
Yeah. Here, let's just throw the mic. Just throw it through a window. But yeah, TJ, thanks so much for joining in the fun with us. Thanks for being part of our team for the last several months. You've been really cool, really great having you. You always bring a ton of knowledge. You got the best radio voice in the house, and we love having you. You've been great on this episode. So thanks so much for taking the time with us.
It's a real pleasure. Thank you.
Yeah, we love having you, man. Thank you.
Yeah, and next time I'll be wearing heat red. Sorry, Cirroc.
Hey, all good. Second place counts for something.
plus a week from now, if I'm wearing it, it'll probably already be over. You're right. Anyway, all right, everybody at home, please make sure to subscribe to the YouTube channel. Hit the bell icon, or as Cirroc calls it, the Gabriel bell icon. I don't know if he calls it that, but he should from now on.
Yep, that's what I call it.
And, check out our Patreon, patreon.com/the7th rule. And we'll see you next time. Always remember the 7th rule.